a couple of zoning amendments. So the recommendation here, moved by Dan, seconded by Lisa, that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North recess the regular council meeting of July 27th, 2020 for the purpose of holding a public meeting under the Planning Act for Johanna Bars and Patrick Van Einden zoning bylaw amendment and 350 Cork Inc. zoning bylaw amendment. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So we are recessed. So I'll just switch my stuff here for the public meeting. We've got 2 applications this evening. I'll call the public meeting to order. Ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest on either of these items on the public meeting agenda. I have none. Councillor McCabe?
I have none.
Councillor Hearn?
No.
Councillor Yates?
No.
Councillor Burke?
No.
Okay, great. So the first item up is the owner applicant is Johanna Bars and Patrick Van den Einden. The location of the subject, the land subject to the proposed amendment is described as part lot 33, concession 2, and known municipally as 7470 Second Line, geographic township of West Garifraxa. The property is 11.9 hectares in size, and the map of that property is attached in your agenda. The purpose and effect of the application or of the proposed amendment is to rezone the subject lands from site-specific agricultural A-100 zone to agricultural or A zone. This rezoning is a condition of severance application B62/19 that was granted provisional approval by the Wellington County Land Division Committee. The consent will sever 11.9 hectares agricultural parcel from the retained 5.6 hectares with the existing greenhouse business. How was notice given for this public meeting?
All right. Notice was given were mailed to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property, as well as sent to the applicable agencies. Signage was posted on the property on July 6, 2020.
Great, thank you. Michelle, are you with us and can share some words with us?
I am. Thank you, Mayor Lennox. I have not officially changed my name to Dave.
I was wondering who Dave Inasante was. I was like, oh, this would be interesting.
As everyone knows, I'm clearly not a Zoom expert trying to get on here. Thank you, Mayor Lennox. The rezoning will effectively remove the commercial greenhouse permissions from the portion of lands that were to be severed or as part of the severance application. And basically the request of the Land Division Committee was then to return those lands to the agricultural zone. The council may be familiar with the application and remember seeing it before council. When the application came before us, it is as proposed here today, and the recommendation by planning staff was to actually reduce the size of the ag commercial severance, and we requested limiting it to the area of the business fronting Second Line and then extending into some of the field area just further along Second Line. And as I think council is aware, that did go before Land Division Committee, and ultimately Land Division Committee approved this configuration. And what they did is argued that this configuration would be more efficient for the property and extending the property line down to the boundary of the tree line. So if you have the report before you, you can see in the air photo, the proposal does follow that configuration. So effectively that is what Land Division approved. The request before council is to ultimately implement that recommendation. And what county staff advised at that meeting was to ensure that the commercial retail, retail sale of plants was removed from the property to be severed to ensure that that business stayed on the lands fronting onto Second Line. So I'm happy to take any questions. We don't have a concern with the application as it's presented, recognizing that it has been before Land Division Committee.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. See, I got the name right this time. Is there any further correspondence been received in respect to this application?
No, other than what is listed on the agenda in the package, there's been no further correspondence.
Great, thank you. So anyone interested in this application, the bylaw will be considered at the council meeting immediately following this meeting. So once we're finished with the public meetings, we will be dealing with the bylaw regarding this property immediately thereafter. Any persons wishing notice of the passing of the bylaw must request it in writing by notifying the clerk. And open the floor for questions or comments from the applicant and or the public. Anybody online with us here that would like to participate in this one?
Thank you. Can you, it's Jeff Buseman, Van Harten Surveying. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Again, please go
Great.
ahead.
I'm the agent for this application, and it's been explained quite well. Fundamentally, there's a severance that's been approved, subject to conditions. The front part is Arthur Greenhouses, and you can see the owners online as well, possibly. They've run a very successful business, and they've been doing well with their business. They're getting into
I just lost
to specialty shrubs that they're improved, and basically we're just asking that the special provision of retail sales be removed so that the rear portion of the severed parcel can operate as a typical agricultural parcel. The eventual plans are to start more of a nursery stock type activity in the back, and plans are underway for that. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay, great, thank you. Anyone else joining with us this evening wants to speak on regard to this application?
Matt Lance had asked to speak.
Okay, Matt, please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I was looking to speak on the Cork Street
Sorry.
regards, but
Okay, just hang in there. We'll get back to you. Okay, anyone else wish to speak in regard to this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll move over to comments or questions from council on this one.
I think it's great to see that this business is thriving. I've got some plants on my porch that are from the Arthur greenhouse, so I'm happy to support this.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, and I would just add that I think it's good that while the parcel is being separated, it is being kept in agricultural because it is surrounded in agricultural activities around it. So it seems like an appropriate switch to me. Any final questions or comments on this one? Okay, so we're going to move to our next application. And this application is, sorry, the owner applicant for this is 350 Cork Inc. The land subject to the proposed amendment is described as Part Lot 8, Registered Plan 61R 20624, Parts 5 and 6, and known municipally as 350 Cork Street, geographic town of Mount Forest. The property is 0.32 hectares in size, and again, there's a map in your package where the location is shown upon. Purpose and effect of the proposed amendment is to rezone the subject land from residential R2 zone to residential R3 zone to facilitate increased density and the construction of a 6-unit row townhouse. Additional relief may be considered at this meeting. How was notice given for this public meeting?
Notice was given by mailing notices to 120 meters of the subject property, as well as to the applicable agencies, and signage was posted on the property on July 6th,
Okay,
2020.
great, thank you. Is Matt with us? Matt Dow, or is Michelle taking this one too?
No, I'm here. Matt speaking.
Okay, go ahead, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I might be a new face as well as a new name for some of the members of attending tonight. So nonetheless, my name's Matthew Daou. Very happy to be here. But feel free to call me Matt. I'm planner with the county on the North team with Michelle and Linda. Just filling in for Jessica while she's on mat leave right now. So with that said, my little introduction being done, I'll jump into the application before us today, which is a zoning amendment to rezone the subject lands from R2 to R3 to permit the construction of a 6-unit townhouse in Mount Forest. So attached with my report, council will have seen an amending bylaw. So upon site plan review, some additional deficiencies were found, which need to be added to said bylaw. So as a result, this application is only here today for the public meeting component. I'll have a final updated version of the bylaw to address any outstanding concerns for the August 10th meeting. So with that said, I'm happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Okay, just to clarify then, Matt, we're not going to deal with the bylaw that's in our agenda this evening. We're going to be dealing with it at our next meeting, and those deficiencies, will somebody be available to highlight those for us before it comes time to vote on that bylaw?
Yes, that's correct. So it'll be at the August 10th meeting. And yeah, you'll have the amended bylaw there.
Okay, great, thank you. Has any further correspondence been received in respect to this application?
No correspondence has been received other than the correspondence that's included in the agenda package.
Okay, great, thank you. So normally I would advise that the bylaw is going to be considered in the council meeting immediately following this, but because of the revisions required, it's going to be considered on our August 10th. Is that the right date, Karen? Meeting, our next regularly scheduled meeting anyways. So anyone wanting to witness that, please join us again on August 10th. Any persons wishing notice of the passing of the bylaw must request it in writing by notifying the clerk. Karen, did you?
Nope. There's
okay.
normally we would have them sign sheets at the meeting, but we don't have those. So you need to make a written request to me.
Okay. Okay, and then we're on to opening the floor for questions or comments from the applicant and or the public. So who would like, I see a few faces here. Who would like to go first? Joshua? You're on mute here still. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Can you hear me there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Council and Matt. So I just wanted to give a little intro to what we were planning on doing with 350 Cork. So it's an infill lot currently, which is zoned R2, which we are asking to go to R3. The reason is right now it would be only allowed to put 4 units on, and we're hoping to just increase that to 6 units with garages, row townhouse, slab on grade, in-floor heating, so very easily accessible for seniors. We're planning on building a purpose-built rental, which we have found high demand in your municipality and even provincially. This corner of town already has this types of building, which I know you guys are all familiar with. We want to build a similar type of building that we built at 466 Queen Street, which was a 6-unit building, single level and easily accessible. When we were building this, we found that a lot of our tenants ended up being seniors and had mobility issues. A common comment that we got from them was that we received that they wanted direct access to their unit. And also on top of that, enclosed parking. So at first we had ideas of being a common entrance, but we thought, oh, let's get away from that and get separate entrances. But now we're even finding, even though separate entrances mean walkways and things to go around the building, which they've all been okay with, but would much prefer to get right up to their unit. And so with the construction and the plans that we're planning to do at 350 Cork was to try and include more of a row townhouse where they have garages and they can pull right up into their unit. And by doing that, we also were able to provide a lot of parking, much more than what was the minimum required. I know some of the concerns were parking on the street from nearby subdivisions, and we would have more than 2 spots for every unit, and then as well as visitor and wheelchair accessible spots before you pull into the unit. So quite a bit of parking for everyone. Peter was going to just add a little bit to this as well, so I'll just mute myself, but thanks for hearing me.
Okay, Peter, I guess you're up next.
Can you hear me there?
Yep, go ahead.
So we're just trying to make sure we don't have any feedback here. We are in the same social family bubble here, so we're sitting at the same desk. Yeah, so what really drew us into this property, and there's a lot of natural beauty there, which tenants of our existing building have commented on. They like the creek and the trees, and we've seen the comments that from the neighbors, they'd like to keep that, and we agree. We think there's a lot of natural beauty there that we want to keep as well, and we will try to keep as many trees as we can where possible around the perimeter. The reality is some of them will have to go in order to build, but like Josh said, there's a high need in the community for this type of housing, and with this rezoning amendment, we can add some additional units to that property. And whether we're zoned R2 or R3, the relief that we're looking for is somewhat similar. Mainly our creek setback, and I guess Matt will discuss this at the next meeting, but we're requesting relief for the setback there. Now we're asking for less of a setback than we had on our Queen Street development, and we've reduced one of our units, one of our 6 on Cork Street in our proposed plan, to accommodate sort of a further setback from the creek. The other item would be a fence. If we're zoned R3, we need to, according to the bylaws, have a fence or a buffer strip on any adjacent properties that are not R3. In our proposed plan, we've proposed putting a privacy fence along the entire southern boundary. And the final item that we are requesting relief from is the common amenity space. And as Josh has said, we've had lots of comments from our existing tenants, and we know firsthand that they are not using the common amenity space in our current building. And so in lieu of a single spot on the property, what we're proposing to do is build a deck that's easily accessible right out the rear of each unit. And what we found is that our tenants who have mobility issues or sight issues or otherwise are much more likely to just step out their door and enjoy the outdoors on their own deck. And from there, they'll be able to talk to their neighbors. Excuse me. They'll be able to talk to their neighbors who are fairly close by, and much more likely to invite their neighbors over to, share some conversation on their deck where they're close to their own amenities like their fridge and their bathroom. So we think it'd be far more valuable to the tenants of the community to have that rather than the common amenity space. So we're looking to be reasonable here and think that's a good compromise that our tenants will use and satisfy their needs. So that's kind of a overview of what we're looking to do. And like Josh said, this is R3, but we're looking to stay low rise. We're single level, not multi-story or anything like that coming into that space. So really want to match the area, same type of style and all that for the actual construction. And our experience has found that there's very little traffic. Our tenants, even where there's 2 tenants in the unit, just have a single car. So there's very little traffic that will probably actually enter and exit this property. So we're happy to take any questions or comments and from council or public. So
Okay, I just have one quick question. It's just a clarification, if I could. And during your discussion, did I understand you correctly? You're reducing the planned development from 6 units to 5 units. Is that what I understood?
No, sorry, it is 6 units. What I was indicating is we've shrunk the size of one of the units.
Okay.
To allow the setback from the creek to be a little farther.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Anyone else like to speak in regard to this application? Matt, did you want to speak? Yeah, go ahead.
That's okay. I'm new to the town, just so that's apparent. I just moved in directly, I guess, beside the unit or the property that these gentlemen are wishing to work on. And I've become friends with most of my neighbors so far, and there's I'd say a good 6 residences surrounding who are very concerned about the idea of full development of that property, specifically because of a variety of things. As far as we understood it, and as far as everyone in the general vicinity has understood it, it's a natural drainage zone. And so when the water floods out, it does consume that entire swamp region, and it does trickle out. And a few of the neighbors, I guess it would be on this side of me, their backyard, now not mine, but their backyards do fill up with almost 40 to 50 feet of water just to, accommodate the drainage. And there's a deep concern that by building a retaining wall, which prevents the water from actually leaking outward along that, creek route, there will be an expansion of the drainage zone in their own backyards. And we don't have any information. I mean, I've got the form or the development plans here, which don't show anything in terms of how that's supposed to be handled. And so there's a variety of people around us concerned about that, specifically Hal Wagner and Donna McComb and Mary and Charlie Richard. Their properties would be the most impacted by that. For myself, as well as my neighbor Stephanie and our other neighbor Joyce, we're deeply concerned about, though the plan does express about a 6-foot privacy fence, there is a concern that even in a 6-foot privacy fence, it kind of achieves nothing if the ground level has to be raised in any way, and therefore the decks themselves are raised. It just creates a peering zone straight over the privacy fence, which negates the existence of it. There's also concerns that there was a previous attempt to deal with creek drainage by a Brian Padfield, which apparently had never happened. I know nothing of this, but some of the other residents are concerned that there was an attempt at this and it never went through, and this is just going to be another of these circumstances. Another point that was brought up was, I got a lot of notes, I'm sorry. Snow removal and buildup, because of the number of parking zones and the actual amount of pavement there's a concern about whether or not that will be then pushed into a shared space or impeding on other people's property lines. There is concerns about the pooling of water in either the new residences because of the drainage point meeting due to a raised property. There's concerns about emergency vehicle access, trying to navigate down a twisted roadway right beside a creek while pivoting in an emergency. There is concerns about the creek border itself, where the retaining wall would be, and whether or not there would be sufficient railings and protection from residents falling into the creek should they be out walking. You never know what could happen. What else? There was environmental impact concerns, but I saw that there was a report, though it's not in this documentation, from SVCA or CVA, one of those two.
Logging Valley.
Thank you. There was a report from them stating that, or there's a report from them, but we don't know what it revolves around. And was there? Yeah, and then the only other question overall was, should the plan go ahead as proposed? Some of the residents are wanting to know what the next steps would be to counterpoint it further should the need arise. And just as a side note, they asked me to be the video representative because I'm the most affluent with Zoom.
Youngest.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything further at this point, Matt?
I think that is all the notes that I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
We got anyone else lined up to speak on this one, Karen? No? Okay.
No.
Peter or Josh, are you interested in trying to address any of those concerns raised?
I guess just for most of them, I understand they'll just be addressed in site plan control. Anything to do with stormwater and all that is typically done there, and we rely on the professional engineers and planners that tell us that it's a good plan and it can work and address those things. That, granted, we'll also be built in the same area and don't want floodwaters in our properties either. So we've got similar lines of sight on that, or similar concerns. I think Councillor Yake looked like he wanted to actually add something there as well.
Yeah, well, I'll get to him in a minute.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure that we covered all the bases here.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, we'll move on to comments or questions from council. Dan, did you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I have a couple of, I do have a couple of concerns. And the first one being is the traffic flow. I think there's a lot of traffic on that street now with the park and the sports complex. There's a lot of people parking on the street as it is. It's been noted in some of the correspondence, and now people are parking in the grass across the road to allow them room to park. Emergency vehicles, obviously going to be a tight squeeze for them to get in there. I think that's has to be a key element to any type of development back in there. The other, I've never heard of that water course described as a creek. I've always heard of it described as a ditch. It's been a drainage ditch for 50 years since I've been in Mount Forest. So I've never, I don't know if we're talking about a meandering, babbling brook here, or we're talking a ditch that takes overflow from the current lands. And the other thing too, I guess, we're hearing kind of how it will be laid out, but I guess until we get to the point where we actually kind of see what a footprint of a building is going to look like, it makes it quite difficult to make an assessment on whether to support this or not. But those are my concerns. They'll have to be addressed somehow, and we'll go from there.
Okay, other questions or comments from council? I've lost visually Steve and Lisa. I don't know. So
I'm here.
If either of you wish to speak, I can't see you at the moment.
I'm back again.
I'm good, Mayor Lennox.
Okay. Any questions or comments, Lisa?
No, I'm good too for now.
Okay. Sherry, did you have any?
No, I'm fine right now. Thank you.
Okay. So I just want to have some questions with regard to some of the issues that have been raised, and I'll direct this to our staff because I believe a number of these are already addressed or are in the process of being addressed, and around the issues of drainage, emergency access. That would be part of, those would be normally things that would be reviewed and designed through the site plan process, as well as tree removal, and snow management. Is that correct, that we would be dealing with all those issues with professional design during the site plan process?
That's exactly right, Mayor Lennox. So emergency access is specified in the building code. So to my department and emergency services, we're looking at that. Stormwater management, snow removal, that type of thing is designed by the applicant's engineer and peer reviewed by township engineer. Things like buffering, common amenity area, and things like that are viewed through the Wellington County Planning Department.
And site grading would be taken care of in that process as well, correct? To ensure drainage and that it's not interfering with drainage on neighbors' properties as well?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments from members of council? Okay. So I guess that brings us to the end of our application tonight. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we will be dealing with the bylaw from this, as there was a few revisions that needed to be included before we can pass the bylaw. We'll be dealing with that on our August 10th council meeting. So that brings us to the end of our public meeting. And I'm going to just, so I'm going to say moved by Lisa, seconded by Dan, that the public meeting of July 27th, 2020 be adjourned at 7:33 p.m. All those, okay, because I can't see right now, Lisa or Steve, you're going to have to speak. I'm going to call for the motion. I can see you, Dan and Sherry, so we can continue with the usual method. So all those in favor?
Yes.
Okay. That's carried. Thank you. We're adjourned from our public meeting. We'll go back to our regular council meetings. Okay, we got a recommendation here to resume our regular council meeting. I'm going to suggest that's moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry.
Well, can I just say, I believe Steve has, no, he's there. We just can't see him.
Okay. He's still with us, so we can still make the motion.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to say that moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North resume the July 27th, 2020 regular meeting of council. Steve, I still can't see you, so if you can speak, go ahead. Otherwise, I can see everybody else. All those in favor?
Yes.
That's carried. Thank you. And we do have one bylaw arising from the public meeting to pass. I'm going to suggest that's moved by Lisa, seconded by Dan. That bylaw number 62-20 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 66-01 being zoning bylaw for the Township of Wellington North be read a first, second, and third time and enacted. This in regard to Part Lot 33, Concession 2, municipally known as 7470 Second Line, Geographic Township of West Garafraxa, for Johanna Bars and Patrick Van den Einden. Any questions or comments on that? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moves us on to adoption of the minutes of council and public meeting. So I'm going to suggest moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on July 13th, 2020 be adopted as circulated. Any questions or comments on those minutes? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Business arising from previous meetings. We have a notice of motion from Councillor Yates from our July 13th meeting. And I'm going to suggest it's moved by Dan. I'll wait and see who wants to second it. The recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North make a request to the County of Wellington that tipping fees at the Riverstown landfill be waived for leaf and yard waste from the Township of Wellington North residents to help them transition to the new program. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Sherry. Open the floor for discussion on that. Dan, you want the first crack at it?
Sure. Basically, just not much has changed from a couple of weeks ago. From my thoughts was to just, I think since we've had so much kind of trouble transitioning to the county program, that I think we should ask for some relief from the county in regards to yard and garden waste as we move forward here. I'm not exactly sure, and this may take a little bit of discussion in regards to a time frame, whether it's just the months between when the county does their pickups, or whether it's complete spring, summer, fall type thing. I think we need to have those discussions. I did have the discussion as a gentleman called me a while ago, and he was quite pleased with the idea that at least they would load it up in their car and take it to the landfill site, and if there was no charge, they would do their neighbors as well. So I'm really just asking for council support to move forward and approach the county. I'm not sure what that process is, and just see what their feelings are in regards to it, and go from there, just to help the whole process of transitioning and making it a better, easier issue for people to deal with in the community.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Steve, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. And through you, Mayor Lennox, is the county not kind of, I guess, foregoing charges for this already? Do they not already have that in their plan?
So currently they are not waiving tipping fees for this type of material coming into Riverston or the transfer stations. There is some discussion underway to do that. One of the reasons being that the yard waste program is really only eligible or available to urban type residents. And so this will be an opportunity for those who are rural residents to be able to take their leaf and yard waste if they wish, and continue to not have it be landfilled. I mean, the big driver for this is the green bin program has been to try to keep organic materials out of the landfill so that landfill capacity lasts longer. And we're not looking for a new landfill for Wellington County. So the more organics we can keep out of that stream, it's better for the long term, both financially and environmentally. So there is initiatives being discussed at the moment to do that. I think as Councillor Yake has alluded to, it would provide an opportunity for residents to have another way to deal with their leaf and yard waste at their discretion, on their timetable. And again, it would make it a little bit more level playing field for rural residents should they wish to access that service as well.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, Councillor Yake, I fully support what you're saying as well. I just wanted some clarification from the mayor who sits on county. So, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
It almost looked like Lisa was trying to say something, but I'm not sure. Sorry.
Were you wanting to speak, Lisa?
Not yet. I was trying to reconnect again.
Okay. So in terms of, did you hear the discussion in terms of this notice of motion?
She's froze again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see you, Dan. I'll just.
Yep.
Try.
Cave's question, but I did not hear your response, Mayor Lennox.
Okay. I was kind of rambling. I'll try to go through that again.
Good thing it's recorded.
So I was commenting that yes, the county does not currently waive the tipping fees for leaf and yard waste for county residents at the landfill or at any of the transfer stations. But there is discussions ongoing in terms of permitting that. Again, to give more people more flexibility to keep that material out of the landfill stream, and also to provide more opportunity for rural residents who don't have the access to pickup of those materials to be able to access it on a more level playing field. Ultimately, the goal is to keep as many organics out of the landfill stream as possible, so that the landfill lasts longer and has less environmental imprint on our community as well. I guess I would add too that you know, they aren't currently set up to have a very efficient system to take this material from collection to the processor. So there will be some efforts that will be required to facilitate that at the landfill or at the transfer station. So it may take a little bit of time, but I think if we're making this request, I think that's fine. We're just asking them to, you know, facilitate this as soon as possible if they would consider it at all. Sherry, I'll go to you next, and I'll come back to you, Lisa, and then I'll get to you, Dan. Don't worry. Yep. Go ahead, Sherry.
Oh, I just think that this is a really good idea, also to help with not just cleaning up the streets, but also to help with the illegal dumping that's going on now. And it could be, our municipality could be a good trial or pilot project for the county if they agree, being as it sounds like there's some works being done sort of in the background to see whether it's viable for everyone else. So I think if we can get our county councillor members on board to sort of tout it as a pilot project, I think that would be a good way to go about it.
Okay. Thanks, Sherry. Lisa, did you want to add some comments?
I do agree with Councillor Burke's comments, and I do think it's a great idea. Should the county wish to agree, and not just from the waste standpoint. You know, right now is a really tough time for a lot of people, and if this makes one little thing easier for them right now, I think it's beneficial. I did have a question though, like if we're going to the county with this, are we talking about a specific time? Like, should we waive it for a year, or are we talking about something open-ended?
My kind of recommendation on that, Councillor Hearn, would be as soon as possible and open-ended. I think this is not something that's a need is going to disappear on. This is, you know, particularly for those non-urban residents to be able to access this kind of a service needs to extend well beyond this calendar year. Dan, did you want to add some other comments?
I just wanted to say, I think this could be a real leadership issue with both the county and Wellington North in this regard. And it's been said that maybe it can be, you know, used as a pilot project and see how it goes. But I think it would really show some good, solid leadership on this file in regards to, you know, good leadership on both levels of government. I guess my next question would be to either Andy or Mike. What would be the process in moving forward? Do we need to send a request to the county from the municipality, or how would that work? Or probably, I mean, county council is probably aware that this is on the table. Our county council representatives are certainly aware that we'll be discussing it. So I guess just moving forward, what would be the process?
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, I think it's just a formal request at this point from our council to the county to consider this. Okay. Mike, do you have anything in terms of process beyond that?
Yeah, no, in terms of process, yeah, I think you're correct, Mayor Lennox. I would comment that our county councilors, knowing this was coming, were made aware that something of this similar request would come formally from our council around this particular issue. The one problem we may run into is that solid waste services, I don't think intends to meet again until probably September. Mayor Lennox can correct me on dates, but so if it's going to move forward quickly, it would have to be kind of a staff-driven initiative. But I do know that Solid Waste Services, the committee, as Mayor Lennox indicated, has had some discussion around this. So certainly it would be, basically taking our notice of motion, forwarding it over to county, directing it to county council and to Solid Waste Services for them to consider it as it relates to the process anyways, Councillor Yake.
Okay, very good.
I would comment too, Dan, that you talk about us taking a leadership role, and really Wellington North is really the leader countywide in terms of solid waste. I mean, the landfill is in Wellington North that serves all of Wellington County. The contractor who picks up all of the material at residences is in Wellington County. The processor, in Wellington North, the processor for the organic materials is in Wellington North. What better place for this sort of initiative to come from? So
I agree.
I never thought of it in those terms, but that's a very good point.
we because we have so many businesses and so on related to this. The better we can make it, it's good for our economy as well as the environment.
Sure, absolutely.
Any other comments before we call the motion on this? Mike, did you?
So Mayor Lennox, there was some conversation about is there a term attached to this? At this point, the way the motion reads, it's basically pretty open-ended, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I do know that Councillor Yake raised this at the beginning, whether or not we should be suggesting that there's a period of time within the calendar year for in perpetuity. Is there further clarification that we need for the motion itself, which will be going to County Council and to Solid Waste Services?
Okay. Dan, do you have any thoughts that you'd like to include at this point?
I'd take it for as long as it is available. So I think I've heard here that maybe we should try for an open-ended period of time, and we can go from there. So I think we should start with an open-ended period of time.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I'm good with it, Mayor Lennox.
Okay. So, Mike, do you think we need to change the wording of that to reflect that?
The wording here is open-ended.
The only thing I would say is that the wording says help them transition to the new program. So some may assume that a transition period is a limited period, but that's that's in the eye of the beholder sometimes.
So if you wanted to make it more open-ended, you could remove the last few words that say to help them transition to the new program. You could take that out of there.
Yeah, okay. I think those are kind of important aspect of this too. I mean, it's helping with the transition of the new program. It's also helping keep organics out of the waste stream long term. So maybe we could add those words, to help with the current transition and with the long term keeping organics out of the waste stream. Dan, Sherry, you okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we are leaving it as is, and we are adding, as a friendly amendment, we're adding the words to help. We are adding the words and with keeping organics out of the waste stream.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, everybody good with that?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. Lisa, I've lost your face. I know you're still there, so did you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, any final comments before I call the motion on this? Okay, all those in favor?
Yes.
I don't know if you can
Thank
see
you.
me, Andy, but yes.
Yep, I can see you, and thank you, Lisa, I heard you, so that's carried unanimously, so thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
So we'll move on now to our items for consideration tonight's meeting, and we need to pull out those things that we want to have further discussion on. Anybody want to start us off?
Can I pull 1B, Andy?
Yep. Okay. Any others?
Barry, we've lost your video.
4C.
Or
Sorry, you lost
Steve?
my video? Yes, please.
No, Sherry took our video off. You said 4C, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So far we've got 1B and 4C. Any others?
Can you pull 3B too, please?
3B,
Yes.
Community Improvement Program.
Yes.
Okay. So we got 1B, 3B, and 4C at this point. I'm going to suggest 5C.
Thank you.
Any others? Karen, I saw your hand there.
Yeah, I'm going to need some direction on 5A, which is the Economic Recovery Act, as it relates to amendments to the to our procedure bylaw.
Okay. So we'll add that one as well. So we got one, I'll just recap. We've got 1B, 3B, 4C, 5A, and 5C. Any others? Okay. Lisa, any others? I couldn't see your video there for a minute. Okay, so I'll just recap quickly and then we'll deal with the others. So again, that's 1B, 3B, 4C, 5A, and 5C. Okay. And I'm going to suggest that moved by, so we'll deal with all the others. Moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve. Let me get my, find the right page here. Sorry. That all items listed under items for consideration on the July 27th, 2020 council agenda, with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion, be approved and the recommendations therein be adopted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everybody. That's carried. So that brings us back to 1B. That's the Arthur BIA meeting. I'm going to suggest that that's moved by Dan, seconded by Lisa. And the recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive the minutes of the Arthur B. Business Improvement Association meeting held on July 15th, 2020. Okay, open the floor for discussion. Lisa, do you want to start us off with that one?
Yeah, and I'll just shut my microphone off so that you can hear me. I just wanted to comment that I am so impressed with this meeting in particular, but how well I think the Arthur B. One of my favorite meetings as a counselor that I've had in a long time. The collaboration is impressive. They're all working together to, make Arthur a better place, and they're coming away. They're doing homework. They're coming back. It's working very, very well from my perspective. And I just wanted to highlight in the minutes some of the ideas around the Connecting Link project that they've had so far. And everything is frozen, so I hope you heard me.
Yeah, it was a wee bit choppy, Lisa, but we're hearing you now loud and clear. Do you want to carry on with that? You still there, Lisa?
Yeah, I'm still here. I have no idea what you heard.
So I think we heard almost everything. There was towards the end you were clearer. It was just you were a little garbled at one point, but I think we got the gist of it.
I can't hear her.
No, I'm not hearing anything now.
For everyone tuning in, the weather is terrible tonight, and this is the reality of rural internet. It's cloudy outside. I don't know what you caught. It was a fantastic meeting. Everyone's working together really well. They're taking homework projects. They're doing research. They're coming back with great ideas. Everybody had input and contributed well to this meeting. And there is quite a substantial list of potential projects to be held in conjunction with the Connecting Link project.
Okay. And maybe I misunderstood, Lisa, but I thought you were wanting to highlight some of those projects.
Well, maybe just all of them. Is there any of them that anyone had any particular questions about?
Well, I don't think we are aware of what they are. Or do you mean the ones listed in the minutes?
Yeah, the ones listed in the minutes, correct.
Okay. I didn't know whether there was more than just what was in the minutes. So I didn't have any questions. Did anybody else have questions about those at this point?
No. I do not.
They're going to need some further development before we get to the final result anyways, I would expect.
Mayor Lennox, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead, Dale.
Thank you. Just in regards to your last comment, so staff actually met today to go through the list of enhancements, and through Matt, our Director of Operations, Matt is reaching out to the engineer to get him engaged in helping us size through some of those things. So some of them we can size from a staff perspective, but the ones that need further work, that'll be happening shortly as well.
Okay, thanks, Dale. Any other questions or comments in regard to this, these minutes of this report?
Only maybe one other thing, and I don't recall whether it was in the minutes, but the BIA is, working pretty well. They're really looking forward to our street events that are happening in August.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to comment as well.
You got that?
Yeah, I got that. The other item on our agenda, which we've already approved, but is the memorandum of understanding with the BIA, and I was very impressed with how quickly they wanted to tackle paying that initial loan off to take on those projects. So yeah, there seems to be a lot of enthusiasm and willingness to make a commitment to this. So I too share your enthusiasm, Councillor Hearn. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's carried. Okay, the next item is 3B. This is the Community Improvement Program. I'm going to say that's moved by Dan, seconded by Lisa. And the recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report EDO 2020-17 regarding the Community Improvement Program, and further the Council approved grants as follows. $1,714 facade improvement grant for improvements at 277 Main Street South in Mount Forest, home of Stumbled Upon, and $2,500 public art grant to assist with the mural at 156 George Street in Arthur, the home of Arthur Foodland. Open the floor for questions or comments on that one. Lisa, did you wish to comment on that one?
Yeah, just comments. Just comment, of course, to see the one in Arthur on Foodland. I've been speaking to Tom Gorecki back when he first became president of the Arthur Chamber, and I said, you know, that wall would be a great spot for a mural, and look at what he came up with. It looks it's going to look fantastic.
Yeah, okay, that's for sure. Any other questions or comments on that one? Okay, all those in favor?
Yes.
That's carried. Thank you. So now we're on to 4C. I think I requested that one, didn't I, Karen? Okay. And I'm going to say that's moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry. And the recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report TR 2020-11 being a report on the proposed 2021 budget schedule, and further the council endorse the schedule proposed by staff. Open the floor for discussion on that. Steve.
Yeah, I just wanted to, you know, the situation that the whole world is in and that our township and municipality is in. Will these be open to the public, and will it be via Zoom, or not knowing what's going to be happening in the near future? What's the plan if we can go back and do this in public, like actually in person, or will we be doing this through Zoom? Mike or Adam, I'm sure you guys have an answer for this one. I was just curious.
Yeah, I see Mike took his mute off and Adam's on board, so I'm going to go to Adam first.
Sure.
Lighten up the screens.
I think the intention, Councillor McCabe, is that we would weather out the storm to see where we are at down the road come November, and it would be the proposed item November 16th, where we would have a public consultation, be that in the form of an open house or whatnot. Certainly the preference would be to have a vaccine in place and everyone healthy and happy and being able to attend in the same room. However, we are flexible in that we can deliver that through Zoom in a public forum as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's the only questions I had. The schedule looks fantastic. I just wanted to make sure that, I guess in these times, that it's as open and as transparent as can be, much like our meetings here tonight. So thank you for that, Adam.
Mike, did you want to?
Yeah, I really don't think I have a lot to add outside of Adam's comments. Obviously, we will adhere to public health guidelines in whatever circumstances present themselves in November. And yeah, we'll see where we're at. But certainly one of the things that Karen asked about was the following report that we're going to talk about speaks to allowing for provisions for continued use of electronic formats for meetings going forward. And so I do think that's something that we will consider as an organization and as a council no matter what the provisions are. But yeah, I do think, if it was today, Councillor McCabe, yeah, absolutely, it would have to be via Zoom. I don't think that's the only way we could do it in a safe environment, but hopefully things will change rapidly by November 16th, and maybe we'll have other options to consider.
So just, sorry.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor Lennox. So say we get back to normal and we get to do this in person. And this is just a curiosity question. Will we still be Zooming our meetings or publicly having them online so that people can join if they can't make it in person to any of the open houses? Or have we got that far yet?
Karen, I saw you with your hand up.
Well, what I have is this nifty recording and video thing just sitting in our new council chambers waiting to be used. And I would hope that we're going to continue. I'm not sure if it's going to be a Zoom format. If we get back into the council chambers together, I would hope that we're going to be able to stream them, whether they're live streamed or they're taped and then posted to YouTube. Again, that remains to be seen with social distancing and things like that. Also, if we're going to continue remote meetings or that ability to have them, it speaks to that in the next report. We're going to have to amend our procedure bylaw. But I think the public likes being able to watch these remotely, and I think it's just a good thing. It's more open and transparent, and the more the merrier.
Sorry, and that's exactly what I was kind of, I guess, angling towards is making sure that it's as, we've had a lot of great public engagement since we've had or held open budget meetings, and I would hope that would continue in person or electronically or what have you. So that was my only question. So thank you very much.
We have the power now, Steve, so yeah.
Anyone else have questions or comments in regard to this report? Sherry, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I think it's an aggressive schedule, knowing that the 2021 budget's going to be probably one of the most difficult that this council will have to deal with, just with the times that we're living in now. But I'm happy to see that the 2021 budget, by the timeline, will be done at the end of 2020 so that staff can hit the new year off and running with the projects that are approved by council.
Thanks, Sherry. Any other comments, questions?
I'm going to say Lisa is now muted and not on video, so I'm not sure if she can hear us, but we're not able to hear or see her.
Okay. Are you still with us, Lisa? Well, even if she's not, we continue to have quorum, so we'll have to carry on. It's, I don't know about everybody else, but it's raining at my house, and that's probably affecting her internet capability as well.
It's lightning outside right now.
Okay.
If you can hear me.
It's a little wet here, but we'll get through it. We need it.
Yeah. I would just add too that I think this kind of a layout in terms of a schedule looks fantastic. Getting it done that early is certainly, I think, as Councillor Burke put it, aggressive and productive, and I think we all need to support that however we can. I hope that during these challenging times, staff can live up to that challenging schedule. So we'll adapt as we go along, and I thank you, Adam, and the team for putting together that schedule so we can kind of know what to expect and when to expect it.
Well done.
And any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Yes.
And now we're on to 5A, and I'm going to suggest that that's moved by Lisa, seconded by Dan. The recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive for information report CLK 2020-14, Bill 197, the COVID-19 Economic Recovery Act. And one of the items coming out of that, of course, is the province. I just caught the news late this afternoon. The province is lifting their emergency declaration under the past. Since March or early April, we've been able to hold these meetings electronically because we amended our procedure bylaw, and we are under a local declared emergency at this point. But if we choose to lift that declared emergency, then we would, unless we amend our procedure bylaw, we would have to go back to in-person meetings. So I think that's the direction that Karen's looking for, is to, are we comfortable to continue with this type of format? If so, we're gonna have to amend our procedure bylaw to allow it. My personal recommendation would be that we do, even if we do wish to go back to in-person meetings, this would give us flexibility. We don't know what's coming down the road, and to have that flexibility in there, I think is really valuable. I'm not trying to dominate this discussion. Please, anybody else, if you've got comments, let's weigh in. Steve?
So if we were to lift it and go back into in-person council meeting, how would that look? Just based on occupancy rates for that room and how all of us would be sitting at a table. We have to wear masks while we're there. Just that kind of quick questions.
I think you've hit it, Steve. We would have to wear masks. We would have to sit further apart. There would be a limited number of people allowed into the council chambers because of the space. It wouldn't be as accessible as it is now in terms of people being able to access it. Karen, you had some comments you wanted to add?
I don't even think that we would be able to have them there. I think we would need to relocate to get the 6 feet of distance between all of council. And so then you're in a different facility. We're limited on the public that we could have in, so we would all be sitting in a different facility together, socially distanced, but having a Zoom meeting anyway, so that the public can take part. And we certainly wouldn't get any more, we would be limited in staff as well. So there will still be a Zoom meeting taking place, but we're all going to leave our homes to go have that Zoom meeting until the distancing guidelines and the limits on the number of people you can have at something that's not in your social bubble. Is that what they're calling it? Yeah.
Steve, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Lennox. That kind of leads into my next question, and it kind of goes back to what Adam was saying about the budget meetings. Do we look at the Kenilworth Public School using the gym like we have in the past for some meetings? I mean, where the OPP training is, we could use that gymnasium, or do we have another spot that we can go to if needed?
So I would be shocked if the public school would let people in there that were not students or parents. And the OPP training station, we had looked at that to use as a space for the election count. And we were told then, Darren, do you want to speak to that you had to have OPP clearance to be in that building? And I don't think it's really suitable. Darren, do you want to speak to the?
That's right, Karen. Because of the tenant we have, we need OPP clearance, and the gym is also set up as a training facility. It would take quite a bit of effort to set it up for a meeting.
So we're really talking about going to the Arthur Community Center or the Mount Forest Sports Complex.
I was going to suggest like we could do it while they like we did up in the Mount Forest complex beforehand.
Yeah, potentially, but I think at this point we have to decide: do we want do we want to change our procedure bylaw to allow us to continue to do Zoom? That would give us the flexibility to do whatever if we want to change direction.
Like if we change it so that we can have a Zoom meeting, it doesn't mean we have to. It means we have that flexibility if we need to. I think, Mike, you had your hand up.
Did you want to weigh in, Mike?
I was going to clarify in terms of locations. Yeah, we have our own facilities. There's a community center in the Mount Forest Sports Complex that allow for more space than our council chambers. They can function that way. Yeah, and to Karen's point, this is about allowing alternatives. We've seen that these meetings can work for the most part. Technology is apparent, and you know, there's also opportunity where we could have certain members of council come to Kenilworth who, you know, are located here or close by. It's good internet connectivity, but we still utilize the Zoom platform. There's lots of options that can be explored, and maybe at this point it would be reticent or for council to give direction to staff to come back with a report that just talks about options as it relates to alternatives, as opposed to saying that we have to make a decision tonight. It was more about saying the province has now afforded us this opportunity. Do we want to look into it in more detail?
There is some potentially some time sensitivity to it because under the current scenario, we're fine as long as we keep the local state of emergency in place to carry on as we. If it becomes difficult to maintain that local state of emergency, then we're forced to go back to the in-person meetings unless we amend the procedure bylaw in a fairly timely way.
Right, so that would be the urgency, is to get the report on for August 10th and the amending bylaw, if that's what you want to do. And to that end, it's not just that procedure that you can amend, though. It's also, do you want to think about proxy voting? The legislation also provides that members of council can vote by proxy, which would mean, you know, Dan, you can't be at the meeting. You're going to tell somebody else to vote for you and how to vote. And so those are the two things that will be included in the report. And I guess what I would ask is if you could individually, don't email each other, because that can be deemed to be a meeting, a closed meeting. But if you could email me your thoughts on both of those provisions individually to me so I can consider them in my report. I have some pretty strong feelings about the proxy voting. I don't think that's a good idea, but I'm not sure what everyone as a whole thinks. And if I could just have some of your thoughts on that. The electronic meetings, I think that's really a given. And then,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
Karen,
Karen.
do you want those, our thoughts individually? Like emailed
Like,
to you?
don't copy the rest of council on them. Send them to
I
me.
just wanted to make that clear. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
So something
we
you might want to think about is if we're going to let electronic participation, is there going to be a limit on that, or are we going to let the mayor go to Antigua for the year and just zoom into the meetings? Like, are we having a limit? Does it have to be for a specific reason that you can't be at the meeting? I mean, there's got to be some rules around it. But those are kinds of things to think about.
Change your name and move to Mets.
There you go.
So yeah, Karen's allowing the opportunity for each of us to send our comments or thoughts to her as well. But I mean, we can have that discussion here as well if anybody wants to weigh into that. I know myself, I'm very much in favor of continuing to keep this option of Zoom meetings or electronic meetings, because I think we don't know what the future holds, and this has been working reasonably well from my perspective. And then in regard to the proxy voting, I am absolutely not in favor of proxy voting. I think that that's a huge mistake. Maybe in some more remote communities that's appropriate, but I think if you've got a vote that's important, you need to show up to the meeting, whether it be electronically or in person. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. If we can keep this open as I guess an avenue, I would be in favor of that. If we need to meet in public or in person, sorry, if in an emergency, of course, everyone I think will probably make themselves available for that. But yeah, proxy voting, I would strongly oppose that as well.
Okay. Anyone else like to join this discussion at this point? Okay, so I think we'll carry on. So again, there's an opportunity to let Karen know what your thoughts are in terms of, you know, how this could work and what your views are. And we'll, Karen, you'll be bringing a report back and that we can consider at our next meeting, perhaps?
Yes, and also I just want to thank Adam. Adam was also involved in the writing of that report, so thank you, Adam, for that.
Okay, Mike?
There's lots of things covered in that report, and one of the things that I think is probably worth discussing, or at least highlighting for council, as it relates to the development charges. And I'll maybe look to Adam to kind of give a highlight around the changes that are proposed through this act as it relates to the development charges, because I do think they will be something that we'll need to consider, and maybe in a similar mode would allow Adam to come back with a report that's specific to that for this council to consider, maybe at one of the meetings in August. But with Mayor Lennox and council's indulgement, I would maybe encourage Adam to have an opportunity to speak to that.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you, Mayor Lennox, and through you. Yes, certainly Bill 197 was a fairly significant bill. At the forefront of it was the discussion around development charges and the community benefit charge. Sitting in on a technical briefing for the bill, specifically as it pertains to the CBC and the development charge. What was apparent was that the CBC is very much focused on high density development. So we would be looking at only being able to implement a CBC bylaw for properties that have 10 units and are no less than 5 stories high. So what that means from a Township of Wellington North perspective, at least from my perspective, would be that we're probably not in a position where we should be looking too far into the CBC. However, with that, they did relax some of the previous notions in terms of what services would be eligible under the Development Charges Act. So with that, there would be, with this 197 introduction, would be the removal of the 10% statutory reduction on certain services. And then the inclusion then of emergency preparedness and bylaw enforcement being part of any future development charges that could be produced. What that means from the Township of Wellington North, again, solely from my seat, would be that there is some opportunity to collect some dollars as it pertains to emergency preparedness and bylaw enforcement. However, there would be a requirement for us to conduct a new short form study to look at those services, what our historical services have been, and what would be required to facilitate the expected growth within the township. So from my perspective, I would suggest that there likely isn't a tremendous amount of opportunity there. I think where the opportunity might present itself from the township's perspective would be with the removal of the 10% statutory reduction on certain services. Looking at our 2018 study, in terms of the total amount, cumulative effort on the statutory reduction, we would be looking just north of $140,000, which would then be DC eligible should we choose to go the route of a short form background study and a revised DC bylaw.
Okay. So the anticipation is that you will be putting a report together on that, Adam, to spell some of that out in a bit more detail.
I certainly can. Mayor Lennox, effectively what it would do is just piggyback and update the report that was presented to council in March when we had first heard about the community benefits charge. I would elaborate on that and then put some numbers around likely what it would look like for us to conduct a short form background study, updated bylaw, and what some of the numbers we could expect in terms of enhancements to our existing DC bylaw.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments at this point then?
I would just point out that I believe we've lost Lisa. Oh, Steve's back. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So call the motion then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. That brings us to 5C. And Karen, have we officially lost Lisa?
I see her microphone is on, but I can't hear her.
Okay, well, we'll proceed with this one. I'm going to suggest it's moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve. And this is in regard to the strategic priorities update. So the recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North received report CAO 2020-006 being an update report on Council's strategic priorities 2019 to 2022 and the 20 and 20 opportunities municipal service review. And further, the council continues to support the utilization of township resources, including staff time, in collaborating with member municipalities and the county on further investigating and implementation of the efficiency opportunities identified in the top 20 and 20, including but not limited to IT service delivery review, reference number 10, shared public works facility with the County of Wellington, reference number 1, and shared drainage superintendent role with the town of Minto, reference number 14. After that mouthful, I'll open the floor for questions or comments. Sherry, go ahead.
So in the motion, you outlined a couple of different projects that have been brought up previously. I'm just wondering if we can get sort of a status update as to where those projects are at from staff. And I also wonder if, and I don't know if this is possible, and you know I don't usually worry about our neighbors too much, but these, it seems like all of the projects in my mind that we are undertaking in the 20 and 20 opportunities are fairly significant. So I'm just wondering what the other membering municipalities are doing that maybe we're not working with, and how they're spending their funds.
Okay, there was a number of items outlined. Were you looking for an update on all of those, Sherry, like the IT service review?
Yeah, I know that the drainage superintendent has come to the table before, not that long ago. So yeah, I wouldn't mind if there's an update on the 3 that are identified in this recommendation, just to sort of give us an idea where we're at, as opposed to having a report that comes back that that sort of makes it like we don't have a choice but to sort of go without rehashing things from previous recommendations through the 20 and 20.
Okay. Mike, do you want to tackle this one?
So yeah, I'll maybe turn to staff on some of the particulars as it relates to the drainage superintendent and the IT service delivery review. Some of our senior staff are more engaged in those in particular. The public works facility, obviously our director of operations, Matt, is significantly involved, but the latest as it relates to that is more that's specific with the county. We've had meetings with senior staff at the county level about a possible location. We've had some discussions about costs associated with actually servicing the lands as it relates to a location. And there's been some conversation that the county has had with the property owner about the actual purchase of said lands to facilitate the building itself. As it relates to the drainage superintendent, I'll maybe turn it to Matt and to Karen to maybe update on the status as it relates to the conversations around that.
Go ahead, Matt, when you have an opportunity.
Yep, through you, Mayor Lennox. Yeah, the drainage superintendent, we had brought to council just for kind of an endorsement in principle, and township staff are working with Minto staff at this point. We have a template agreement that we're working on, and as well as a job description, just to get us into a place where we could bring it back to council to have another look at. But we're kind of working through the details, is what I would say with respect to the drainage superintendent.
And the third item would be the IT service delivery review, and Adam is probably best versed to comment on that.
Certainly. Thank you, Mike, and through you, Mayor Lennox. The consultant that we had engaged for completing the IT service delivery review, Blackline Consulting, has conducted interviews with all the participating member municipalities, along with the third-party service providers for those of us that do utilize those. A lot of the efforts to date have revolved around data gathering and analysis of the data to determine where some of the synergies might lie. And our next larger milestone would be July 30th, which is later this week. We'll be having an official opportunities workshop with the steering committee, which includes all the participating member municipalities. So certainly more to come. And I think on the heels of that opportunities workshop, there will be some more direction given to Blackline in terms of where to hone their efforts, in the hopes that a lot of those efforts will be quantified and displayed in a final report, which will either be in draft form provided to council or in person, depending on scheduling, as I know some of the county is now on a bit of a hiatus throughout the summer. However, we were afforded a small extension just in light of COVID. So we'll be looking for a project closed towards the end of September for that.
And just further on the IT piece in particular, all the member municipalities, with the exception of Aaron, are participating in that one. And one other one that we can maybe also highlight is the asset management piece that, again, and Adam can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe all the member municipalities, including the county, are participating in the asset management piece. So it's an ongoing review and some consultations happening in terms of streamlining the process and making consistent across the county. So in terms of following up with your question about what some of the other municipalities are using the dollars for, there's two initiatives that they're certainly participating in. Beyond that, yeah, I don't have a particular answer in terms of what else they're utilizing their funds for.
Okay, thank you.
I would just add a little piece to the shared public works facility. As chair of the roads committee at the county, I get a little more involved in this than some other initiatives for sure. At this point, the county council is looking towards purchasing land that would accommodate a shared facility, both for the County of Wellington's replacement of the Arthur Garage, plus what Wellington North thinks might be suitable for a public works space, of course, replace the Arthur facility and perhaps some other needs as well. And the intent at this stage, anyways, it's not decided, is that the county would do the purchasing and the construction capital expenditure for that project. And that as a way to share the cost on that, it would not be a capital expenditure for Wellington North, but it would be a lease arrangement, a long-term lease arrangement with the County of Wellington to utilize that facility. Our staff will be involved in the design process in terms of meeting the needs that we have. And if we have concerns about proceeding on that type of basis, we probably should tend to declare that sooner rather than later, because I know the county budget and the intention from county staff is to be in a position to have land purchased before the end of the year, so design can happen in 2021 and construction in 2022, or perhaps sooner. So this is coming fairly soon. It's still in the development stages, so if we have concerns about this type of an approach, sooner rather than later would be a time to air those concerns. Also, I would like to just kind of comment on the fact that, you know, a number of these initiatives, the 20 and 20 initiatives really were a response from us at the county and local level to the movement out of the province for us encouraging municipalities to look for increased efficiencies and find ways to operate more effectively or efficiently with the resources we have, or even saving some resources. So along with our strategic, our own local strategic plan has identified partnerships, and we have many partnerships already that involve, you know, fire service, recreation services. We work with service clubs in terms of raising money for community events, community facilities. All of those things are partnerships that, you know, we kind of identified in our strategic plan. And I know there's been some individuals suggested that these partnerships are a precursor to amalgamation. I don't see it that way at all. I see this as the exact opposite of that. That's allowing us to continue to remain autonomous and prove to the province that we can run in an efficient manner. And so that we can continue to have our local say and our local autonomy. You know, there's a lot of good initiatives, and to your comment, Councillor Burke, yeah, these are big projects, and we're tackling them maybe more aggressively than some of our other member municipalities across the province. But sometimes that's what happens when you're the leader. And so I think, you know, we have a number of staff members who've taken a really strong leadership role in some of these initiatives. And I think we should tip our hat to them, especially under these trying circumstances with the COVID-19. I know I'm constantly amazed at the amount of things that the staff get accomplished, even under the difficult circumstances we've been dealing with. So, yeah, I think I've run out of gas in my comments. So, anybody else have any thoughts or comments, questions?
I might echo your words. I'm not going to say them exactly as you just did, but but no, staff definitely has to be commended. I do believe in Wellington County, and I've always thought this, that Wellington North is a leader, and we will continue to be, and I think this is the right approach as well.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. I think that brings us to the end of our items for discussion. So we're on to notice of motion. Anybody have a notice of motion this evening?
I do not.
Okay. Seeing none at this point, we'll move on to our community group meeting program report. Does anybody have anything they'd like to report tonight in that, or items of community interest?
I haven't had really any meetings. The doctor recruitment meeting went on 2 or 3 weeks ago. I can forward the quick summary or synopsis of that meeting to you, Mike and Karen and Andy, if you like, but nothing too major. Dr. Landoni is retiring. Dr. Paul Jones has taken over. That's kind of official now. And Dr. Landoni has been a great physician in this area. Like, the amount of patients that he has had, and patience with his patients he has had over the has been fantastic, and he's been a pillar of our community as well. And I think Paul Jones has big shoes to fill, but I have no doubt that he will carry on the tradition that Dr. Landoni has set forth.
Yeah, I think there's movement to get doctors to help him as well, to fill Dr. Landoni's roster.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to add in this regard tonight? Lisa, go ahead.
Stop my video. The sky is green. The only thing I touched on the BIA already, so that would have been part of my community group meeting report. I think I just maybe should touch on the Arthur Chamber. We had a meeting last week, and they're helping out with the buy local street event that we're having, kind of in different ways than the BIA is. So they're kind of collaborating and each taking a different role. The one thing that I might add with regard to the RED grant, the Arthur Chamber, of course, was tasked with selecting the Christmas seasonal decorations. I'm not sure which design they're going to pick. We talked about some big snowflakes for town, but they had discovered that there's quite a large discount if everything's paid up front. So there might be a little bit extra money. We were discussing a light up tree to go at the cenotaph, kind of, in place of the tree that used to be lit up. So that could potentially be an option. I'm not sure, but where we're going to go, but. We did have a Mount Forest Chamber meeting as well, and that meeting was pretty short, and I think we all clicked on 2 different Zoom links, so there were 2 different, and then we got connected together later.
Okay. Thanks, Lisa. Anyone else have anything they'd like to discuss tonight? Okay.
Dan had his hand up, Andy.
Oh, did you? Sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
Okay, I had mentioned to Dale a week or so ago, I guess it maybe would have been at the last meeting, with the closures of the main streets in Arthur and Mount Forest in August, if there was a way that council, we should be participating somehow and be seen as supportive of what's happening. I haven't connected with Dale in regards to what that could be or what that could look like, but if anybody has some ideas how we could be involved or be seen or participate, then maybe we could you could let Dale know, and we could Dale could put something together. If Dale's still
Great idea.
here, I don't know if he still has any. Dale,
Yeah.
there he is.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we could use you guys as the roadblock or something like that, right at the corners, where we put up barriers or something, but.
Need to be careful what I ask for, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't really, I think if council could certainly participate and, maybe as a small group or whatever, walk the street and show your support that way would be one good way. But if anyone has any ideas, we could put something together for sure.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea, Dan. I'd be happy to participate if we want to get together as a, physically distanced group and go do some shopping and support our local businesses. So.
Sure.
Any other items for tonight? Okay, we'll move on to bylaws then. So we have a couple bylaws to deal with tonight. The actual cost to provide for drainage works for the Murphy Drain, and to dedicate parcel of land in Con as a public highway. So I think if I understand correctly, we've been using this as a street for many, many years, and now we're officially owning it.
And we're officially going to unown the church, which somehow we wound up owning back in 1960. So yeah, we're just making it right.
Okay.
Church and state should be separated.
Yes, right. That's good.
So I'm going to say that's moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry, that bylaw number 59-20 and 60-20 be read a first, second, and third time and enacted. Any discussion on those? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
We lost Lisa again.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're on to our confirming bylaw. And not seeing Lisa, I was going to call on her to move. Oh, there she is. So I'm going to say that one's moved by Lisa, seconded by Dan. The bylaw number 63-20 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North at its regular meeting held on July 27th, 2020, be read a first, second, and third time and enacted. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And that brings us to adjournment. Going to suggest that's moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve, that the regular council meeting of July 27th, 2020 be adjourned at 8:47 p.m. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone. We are officially adjourned, but I would draw your attention to the meeting schedule there. Normally I do that beforehand, but of course the farmers market items there, and the next regular council meeting August 10th. So everyone has a great evening, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Stay dry.